under your belt? Did you feel like the next two were definitely going to come? Were you at that level? And in junior high, did you see yourself becoming a state champ? Where were you at the junior high level?
I stunk in junior high. 7th grade, I went out for wrestling, and then got kicked off the team because I kept going to a ski. On the weekends, I was on a ski team, so got kicked off. Then in 8th grade, went out for wrestling. Did all right, won districts in junior high. Beat Gary Siegel.
I did have one of those wins that year.
You guys won't give it up.
15 to 14.
Yeah, but there's a reason behind that loss. We won't go into that. But no, I never thought I was going to be a state champ. Not in a million years. I think when would change things was my 9th grade year when I wrestled against John Brennan. He was returning state runner-up and won states that year. And we wrestled, and I tied him 4-4. And then Coach McGinley went up to me and said, "I don't expect you to lose anymore. You're at that level." And from there, then wrestling Gary and barely beating him about 3-2 during that season. And us both winning states that same year, it was pretty much that you knew you were good. And I had that level of competition with Siegel and a guy named Popple, who was very good for Coughlin. At one point in time, Popple beat me during the summertime and beat Gary during the regular season. So I'm surprised he didn't go to states or win states at one point in his career.
And we're talking about the Popple that ended up winning the Wilkes Open?
Yeah, 5 times, I believe.
Yeah.
But one of the things back then, also, Jay and Mark and I mean, we never bumped away from each other, and I attribute that to our coaches, too. Wherever we were, 19, 26, 119 or 126, I mean, we were wrestling each other. That's what the District 2 has to do. They have to start wrestling the competition so we can go to District 4 and go to District 11 and be prepared and ready to go.
We're talking wrestling here in the Saturday Morning Sports Show on Northeast PA's ESPN Radio, driven by McCarthy Tire and Automotive Centers. We're going to be talking with Nate Eaches, a young man from Hazleton area, went on to Colgate to play some football, was an All-American. Of course, had a lot of injuries. He'll be coming up here in the Saturday Morning Sports Show. We're also going to be talking Coughlin Wrestling 2012. Steve Stahl and some of the wrestlers are in studio with us here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on Northeast PA's ESPN Radio. But we're still going back to those late 70s. If you're driving around in your car saying, "Hey, I scored 2 points on Patterson once," he's driving around right now, some guy.
Who scored 2 points on me? I guarantee you there's probably only one person in the village that took me down, and that guy's name was Siegel, but he had to poke me in the eye to do it.
Well, hey, that Three Stooges movie's coming out soon, so maybe you guys could relive that just a little bit. Jay, as far as your plans from this point forward, you go is it Arizona where you're going to be for now that you're visiting the area, you're going back to Arizona, and that's where you'll be?
I don't know. I do like it out here. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been out here during wintertime where it's extremely cold. I was checking the weather last week back in Arizona where it's 80 degrees every day. But I got a lot of friends, got a lot of history, got a lot of family, so I do like it out here. Maybe, in the future I might move out here again.
Jay Patterson here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on Northeast PA's ESPN Radio. He is a 3-time state champion, and I didn't do all the research, Jay, but were you the only District 2 3-time state champ?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right, some of the guys are backing me up. I know we had a couple that had 2, some had 1. Myers, a lot of tradition of wrestling. There some guys back in the 40s and 50s, I think, got 30s, late 30s. There were guys with some state championships. Trying to go through some of the paperwork from the Myers wrestling site, you see a lot about the wins and different guys. Jay, you taking in any wrestling action in the next week or two as far as districts or any of that stuff?
Well, I went to team districts last week. And I'm going to be flying out of here on the 23rd, so I'm going to miss regular districts. I thought districts, I looked it up while I was out west, and we didn't have team districts back in the old days, so I was assuming that it was regular districts. I get out here, and now I hear it's team against team. So it was all new to me, so I'm going to miss regular districts by one day.
Let's bring in Frank Castrogano again here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on Northeast PA's ESPN Radio. Myers guy and coached for a few years and just kind of takes in some matches right now. Frank, locally, I think on the college level, the Wilkes Wrestling program has really done a nice job with Coach John Laudenschlager the last several years, and they're kind of getting that national ranking. I think right now they're 19th. They only lost by a handful to Ithaca, who was ranked 5th, but we're seeing some local talent stick around, whether at Kings or at Wilkes, which is helpful to those Division III programs. Back in the day, Wilkes was a Division I program. Any impressions on the local wrestling at the college level?
Well, I have to say this: if Wilkes and Kings recruit some of the finer wrestlers from the Valley, they'll stay ranked than they are in the state. I remember Ned McGinley over at Kings told me that if he could get the best guys from Wyoming Valley on his team, he'd have a good team every year. So they do a lot of recruiting from the Wyoming Valley, and I think that's really helped their programs. So I'm sure Wilkes does the same thing, but it's really good to see the local boys on the teams.
Talking wrestling here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show on Northeast PA's ESPN Radio. Gary Siegel also with us, and we'll bring Gary back in. We're bouncing all around between Gary Siegel, Jay Patterson, and Frank Castrogano, guys who all have state championships under their belt way back in the late 70s, and we're in 2012, but it seems like yesterday for most of these guys. Gary, how about as far as the wrestling at this point forward? What are you looking forward to locally? Do you go to districts and take it all in, regionals and states? Do you find yourself down at Hershey spending a few days?
Yeah, I'm a volunteer wrestling coach at Tunkhannock. My son is a sophomore wrestling at 145, so I'm very involved. I've been involved with the Pennsylvania Junior Wrestling State Championships, and we also run a sectional tournament, which is going to be in Tunkhannock on March 4th. So all you guys that's for 14 and under. And that's basically what we call a state championship for the junior high kids and the youth kids. But looking forward to districts. I think it's going to be a very competitive district. I think we have a lot of kids this year on all the teams in AAA and AA that really could go down to states and do a good job and come home with some medals. So looking forward to getting to districts. It's been a long year for Tunkhannock per se, but we hope to move some individuals to regionals and hopefully to states.
What's it like being a state champ, former state champ dad, and trying to coach your son and trying to, there's got to be some pressure thinking, hey, I got to live up to what my dad did, but at the same time, you as a dad got to be, have to take that other road of, hey, you just do your best and be who you can be, and things are a little different 30-some years later.
It's very different. Matter of fact, when I knew Jay was coming into town, I was like, okay, Jay, you got to talk to my son, because I could tell him the same things you're telling him, and he'll be listening to you. So just hopefully let other coaches do what they have to do. Try to take some pressure off of them. Just go out and have fun and do the best that you can.
Well, your kid's good. He's only a sophomore, and he got that big heart that you had back in the day. So I could see, he looks promising.
You guys talk about what you bring to the table as a wrestler, a lot of pride back then. What were the things that you guys did to kind of stay in shape, as opposed to maybe what some wrestlers are doing in the 2012? Did you guys just go out and hit the pavement and run a few miles on the streets? Did you run steps? Did you just run around the wrestling room all the time? What was it?
Well, I'll tell you, I used to go down and work out every Saturday and Sunday. Even when the team didn't practice, I was down in the gym at Myers every Sunday. The janitor used to come in and watch me running the bleachers and that with all my sweat stuff on, and just shake his head like I was crazy. And I remember, like, Christmas Day, when the family sat down to eat, I was cutting weight for the Christmas tournament. I went in and worked out. I didn't eat with the family. I was always going somewhere to work out when they went to eat. That way I didn't have to be tempted, because I was always kind of controlling what I ate. I ate pretty much steak and water and proteins and that. So I wasn't going to sit down and eat mashed potatoes and stuffing, with a turkey dinner. So takes a lot of discipline, and you have to put your time in if you want to be on the state level.
Gary, how about for you? What worked for you back in the day to get your endurance up and to make sure that you're a top-notch wrestler?
Well, I ran cross country for 4 years. Actually, I think my 9th grade year was the first year Crestwood actually had a cross country team. And Jay can tell you, third period I was still going. The only way I could hang with Jay was I had to be, in tip-top shape because he had all the moves. I just had to be able to keep going with him.
The smartest guy always wins.
It's just ongoing. When you going back, by the way?
Jay, how about for you? What worked for you as far as, what were the things that made you a 3-time state champ? Was it your style? Was it your endurance? Was it your strength? Was it a combination of everything?
Certainly wasn't my endurance when it came to Siegel. That guy was nonstop. I wrestled a lot. I wrestled with my brothers. I had 3 brothers. My dad converted the garage into a wrestling room. It came from training and repetition. My father used to, this is before the VHS and all that, so he got the reel-to-reel films of the Olympic wrestlers, mainly the Russians. They dominated wrestling, and we would watch that. Plus, during the week, on Fridays, I believe Wilkes College would wrestle, we'd go down there and watch those guys, and at the end of the match, we'd walk down onto the mat and talk to the wrestlers and ask them if we saw some type of special move that we've never seen before. We'd ask them to teach us it. So, and my dad, he was real analytical. He used to wrestle for GR. I think he took like 2nd place in districts way back when. And he wasn't a pusher, like, go out for this, work hard and all that. Being that he had 6 kids, he just knew how to talk to us. And I remember, if there was something like, say, one weekend I got pinned or beat by somebody, he would analyze it and then find out the counter move to a cradle. I remember in 8th grade, going into 9th grade, that's when I started hitting the tournaments, and somebody pinned me from Pittston, and my dad explained what to do not to get pinned by that move. So the next week I wrestled against the kid, and he had won like 3rd in districts in senior high, and I wound up pinning him and using the same counter that my father taught me. So it was more analytical. I always said, know as many moves as you can. Yeah, be in good condition. Of course, work out. But the more you know, it's not the strongest guy that wins. It's the smartest guy that wins. Like any sport.
So who's smarter, you or Gary?
Well, obviously, I'm the genius in this room.
We're talking.
Don't let him talk.
Don't let him talk. Pull his mic down right now.
just real quick. I have 3 state medals, a 4th, a 1st, and a 2nd. Jay has 3 state medals, and Frankie has 1 state medal, but Frank won Outstanding Wrestler that year. Jay and I let him hang out with us because he won OW. But if you get a chance to ask Frank about that year, who was in his weight class, it's really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, I'm the only guy to win OW from District 2 in AAA.
Wow, all right.
But don't forget Casey.
Casey was AA.
Okay.
We got bragging rights. Bragging rights going on and running down the hall, Mike Flusser.
Both guys were Myers boys.
I knew this AA, AAA thing was going to come up.
Now I respect AA just because of you, Gary. So, all right, Frank. Yeah, Frankie had the toughest weight class we've ever seen in states. Well deserved that OW because the people in that weight class were like returning state champs or place winners, about 5 or 6 of them. All right.
Yeah.
Frank, talk about that weight class for us.
My weight class, there was Nate Carr. He ended up being a 3-time national champ and a silver medalist in the Olympics. There was Greenlee, who was a couple-time All-American for Bucknell. There was DiAgostino, who was an All-American for Tennessee. There was McGovern and Kamasa, who both wrestled and won titles, ACC titles for Maryland. I think, if you looked at the weight class, I think there ended up being like 5 or 6 All-Americans in college from that weight class. So it was everybody. I think the one kid I wrestled the first round had like 2 losses. The next kid had 1 loss, lost in the finals, the regionals, and the other 2 were undefeated. It was a really stacked weight.
Oh, yeah.
And that's basically why I got OW for winning that weight class. Everyone says it was the toughest weight they ever saw, but, they can say that every year about every weight class. I just thought of it, like when people were looking at it, saying how tough it was when I was there, I was thinking, yeah, you say that about every weight, so it didn't really bother me. to think that they were all going to, and plus you didn't know they were all going to be that good at the end.
Well, I'm sure, somewhere along there, I'm sure those guys ate that Christmas meal and you didn't. That was the difference.
That could be true, too.
Gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for coming in here on the Saturday Morning Sports Show. It's been my pleasure.